Hey, Jackie. I just started chuckling. I was seeing all the photos of.
I love that one with snow and ice in your beard.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good shot. That I forgot about that one on the left there. That's where'd you even find that one?
I scoured your Facebook.
Oh my God.
Isn't
Yeah,
that a cool
that's
picture?
yeah, that was a crazy day. That was from back when the Peter Vollers and the Vermont Overland race series, they used to run a race in March called the now I forget what it was called. But it was like a March gravel event. It had these snow sections.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Yeah. What'd you do this morning? Did you ski?
No, Dan and I are gonna go for a ski after this.
Oh, nice.
The snow, we kind of got like, we had a month of really, really good ski conditions, and then we got like some rain, and then it got this crust layer. And so when you try to ski in the backcountry with that crust layer, it's like awful. It's like this, you break through this crust and it's very hard to ski it, and it's kind of dangerous almost.
Oh, God.
So it hasn't been as good the last week or so. So it's no rush, but we have a nice little spot that we go out and just kind of poke around. It's a nice trail, and just get outside, get a little exercise today.
Is it nice?
Yeah, it's sunny out. It's sunny about
nice.
probably 15, 20 degrees.
Nice. It's sunny here too, but it's not 15 or 20 degrees.
Yeah, how warm is it where you are?
Well, don't laugh because it's cooler today, but it's actually a perfect day. It's like fluorescent blue sky, and it was like in the 50s this morning. I haven't been outside since this morning, but I guess it's probably in the mid 60s today.
Oh yeah.
It's like perfect. There's no humidity. Yep. Yeah.
Nope, it's 78 degrees now, Spinney.
Oh, is it 78?
78.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Holy smokes.
It's windy though, very windy.
I can see it's windy, but I haven't been outside since 8:30 this morning, I guess, when I ran. 8-ish. Yeah, I can just see it's definitely windy.
Hey, Spinney, it's John Crino.
John Crino.
Hey, I just signed up for the gravel camp.
I saw that. You're gonna have a blast.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And if you don't have a gravel bike, you can rent them right down the road there. We can get that set up. Do you have a gravel bike yet?
I don't. So I'm gonna have to do that. I just bought a mountain bike this past year and started mountain biking more. So that's why I'm even more interested in it. So.
Oh, you'll have a blast. It's such a fun camp.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be fun. I had about 5 weeks later, I'm doing the St. George course, so I figure this will be a good prep for that.
Oh yeah, because it's just tons of climbing, a camp. So that's gonna set you up. That St. George course is really hilly, isn't it? Still, they changed.
Yeah, I think it's like over 3,000 feet of climbing for the half.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie, once we get going, am I gonna be able to just share my screen?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing mine right now. There you go. You can start sharing whenever. You only have 2 minutes till start time anyway, so.
All right, let's try this.
How long's your hair?
It's about shoulder width, I'd say. Length.
You like started growing it out at camp last year, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, it's down to about here or so. It's getting there. It's going to take another year to get it all, like, because it's like, it really grows out, right? There's like some hairs are shorter than others, and so.
So by next year at camp, we should all see your mane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. I updated put it on the newer PowerPoint template. Yeah, I first did this training back in 2011. It's old school.
Sometimes old is good.
It's still totally all relevant. Like I went through everything. There's really no need to change anything because it's just the protocol is so good. It just, you know. So,
All right, guys. Yeah, it's 1:45. So I think most of you know Coach John Spinney. He's been around the QT2 systems for a very long time. And if you've attended any of our camps, he is in charge of our camps. He's at most all the camps. And yeah, I'll let you take it from here, John.
okay, thanks, Jackie. So, hi everybody. This is an official reboot of a presentation I first gave back in 2011, and I've given it a couple times over the years at camps, and it's still just really relevant. And I think what I've learned over the years, just in my own training and racing, but also with the athletes I work with, the relevance of this concept applies to any endurance sport. So our main focus today, of course, is triathlon, but I want you to just keep in mind, for those of you that are dabbling in ultra marathon running or ultra distance cycling, or even some kind of ultra distance swimming, really any endurance sport, this applies to. So, so training and racing, it's all aerobic. Training, racing, Ironman, and any endurance sport, it's all aerobic. I've worked with QT2. I've coached for QT2 for about 12 years or so. And then I also coach under the Cycling Formula brand, as well as the Run Formula. And I'm a big numbers guy, and I like, you know, in terms of like numerology. So today is 2/21/21, and I just happened to mention that I'll be presenting at 2/21, and 21 is my favorite number. So just saying. So what are we going to do today? So it's all aerobic. We're going to discuss the difference between the aerobic system and the anaerobic system. We're going to discuss why training the aerobic system is paramount for success in long course triathlon or any endurance event, the positive effects of a strong aerobic system, and the pitfalls of too much anaerobic high intensity training. So what are you training for? Are you training for a sprint? Most of us are not training for like a 100-meter sprint on the track or something. Or are you training for an endurance race like an Ironman, a half Ironman, ultra marathon, long bike races? So it all starts with this. So if someone is training for a sprint, or if they're a miler, let's say, on the track, they're going to need a different kind of training than what we're geared towards with endurance sports. Okay, and so it all starts with this. So anytime I start working with an athlete, it's all about what are they training for, what events is it, and then you start to customize the training stress. And I highly recommend you really soak this in, because if for those of you that are coaching and those of you that are athletes here at camp, it's all relevant. And the more that you understand this concept, the more you can apply it to your own training and your athletes' training and benefit from it. Train for what you are racing. If you're training for an endurance event, only about 10 to 20% of your training should be high intensity, unless you're already really aerobic. So sometimes you have these endurance athletes that have been training and racing for over 20 years, and they're just very aerobic, as evidenced by like a 3-minute, 20-minute test. Their average heart rate for the 20-minute is significantly higher than the 3-minute, because they just can't really rev themselves up anaerobically anymore, because they've had so many years of Ironman in their legs or ultra. And then those folks do need more high intensity than we would typically say right here. However, most athletes outside of QT2, who, you know, when they first come to us, often had been training too hard, too much intensity. And this obsession with this idea that training must be painful. And honestly, before QT2, before Jesse started QT2, and before Jesse coached me, before I ever became a coach, this is a long, long time ago, I was kind of in that camp. I was like thinking I needed lots of speed work, and I needed all this high intensity training, and I was plateauing. I'd plateaued for about 2 years, And then I started working with Jesse, and all of a sudden I was training at a slower and lower heart rate, but I started getting a lot faster. Very, very quickly started getting a lot faster, and it works. This approach has worked for me, and it's worked with every single athlete I've ever worked with. So like I said, a lot of people have this obsession that they got to go hard, they got to hammer all the time. Long distance racing is approximately 92 to 99% aerobic in nature. We'll discuss that a little bit more. Sprint triathlon in ITU racing or Olympic distance racing is over 85 to 90% aerobic. You wouldn't think that. Even a 5K, an all-out 5K race, is about 80% powered from the aerobic system, not the anaerobic system. So you'd think even someone training just for a 5K, for them to be doing, they shouldn't really be doing more than 20% at a high intensity. They really got to get that volume in to prepare themselves, because the event itself is so aerobic, and you wouldn't think that. It's only when you start getting down into these much shorter distances, like a mile, where it's 50% anaerobic and 50% aerobic. And I'm going to show a chart on that. Focus on training your aerobic system will always benefit you. And, when in doubt, let's say you had some hard intervals that day planned, but you're pretty cooked. Of course, talk with your coach about it, but it's really almost always a much safer bet to just back it down and stay in zone 1. And you're going to benefit continually from that training intensity. Gordo Byrne, who those of you who've been around a while may have heard of him. He was a very prominent Ironman coach. He first was a pretty solid Ironman pro and did a lot of racing, but he converted himself in a relatively short amount of time. And because he really sort of applied this concept of getting tired the right way. Give yourself the kind of training stress that's specific to your event. And, it's the athletes that are not doing that are not hitting the goals and the speeds that they want to hit and the times that they want to hit, the performances they want to hit. Most often, it's really one of the more common issues with a lot of endurance athletes. They're just not doing the right percentage of aerobic versus anaerobic work. And keep in mind too, and we're going to get a little more into this, that training aerobically correctly at this intensity, it has major effects on your metabolic system. Like your body starts to just get more efficient at using fat for energy. And over time, that has an effect on your body composition as well, in a positive way. So aerobic versus anaerobic, what are we really even talking about? Aerobic means with oxygen. At this training intensity, the body is working at a level that demands for oxygen, that the demands for oxygen and fuel can be met by the body's intake of oxygen. Anaerobic means without oxygen, and this is the training intensity that's maximum effort. The body is working so hard that the demands for oxygen and fuel exceed the rate of supply of oxygen, and the muscles have to rely on the stored reserves of fuel. In this situation, waste products accumulate, the chief one being lactic acid. The muscles, being starved of oxygen, take the body into a state known as oxygen debt, which we've all been there. After that, for some of us, in a running race, maybe going out a little too hard in that first mile, or even in a triathlon, the open water swim in the first 400 yards, all of a sudden you go into oxygen debt because you just went a little too anaerobic. Excuse me. So the body's stored fuel soon runs out and the activity ceases, often painfully. And that's really where you get into situations. This is why pacing is so important. And that's a whole nother area we spend a lot of time on it with QT2, is if you go too deep into that anaerobic side of things, it's really hard to back it down. So, whether you're doing a time trial, a triathlon, once you cross that line, it's very hard to reel that back in and get your body back in control. And what I like to describe it as with my athletes is you need to stay in control of your effort. If you want to be just below that line, if you cross that line, you're basically out of control now. And now the effort is controlling you. You're going so hard that now you're just hanging on for dear life, and it's a suffer fest. If you hang out right below that level where you're in control and you're able to just control your breathing and you're just kind of building into the fastest steady state effort you can hold without crossing that line. That's the intensity you want for most races, based on the duration of the event. You're sort of hovering. Ironman is so long that bar is a little lower because you have to be able to sustain it for so long. So that ends up being aerobic threshold, the top of zone 1. All right. So aerobic versus anaerobic. This is an old chart that Jesse made. So when you're looking at this, just think about maximum effort, okay, for the distance. So someone's going out and running as hard as they can for a mile. That means that 50% of the energy to power that effort, that all-out mile effort, 50% is coming from the aerobic system.